So, today's webinar is going to be about how to build your research profile, whether it is for grad schools or whether you want to update your profile with a research background. Today, we are going to be covering the realistic timeline in which research or review papers are written. What is the difference between a research paper and a review paper? The importance of having a research profile. First and foremost, I think this part is extremely important where I emphasize on why having a research profile is so very important. And then I'm going to dive in into the details of writing a research paper. I'm going to be taking you through all the elements of research paper writing, and we are also going to be talking about the finer details later on, all the sections that the research paper has. And then finally, I am going to be talking about some of our programs in which you can collaborate with us to write a research paper. Okay, so let's begin. Yeah. So if this is your first webinar hosted by Videsh, if you're attending the very first webinar hosted by Videsh, I would like to give you a quick background of our team, of our co-founders, what our mission is. So Videsh was co-founded by three co-founders, Dr. Raj, Dr. Rajat, and Dr. Sridat, who are award-winning scientists and researchers from IIT Madras, Purdue University, and MIT in the US. So, when they were in the US at that time, they realized the importance of having a research profile. Rather, they realized the importance of research because research was very much underrated in their undergrad. In actually every university, in every undergrad university, we feel that research is highly underrated, where on the other hand, research should be given a much high importance. So, at that time, when they were pursuing their PhDs, they realized the importance of research and the impact of having a research paper publication on your profile. So, when they published their first papers, their first author research papers, that was when they realized how important it actually is to have a research paper publication on your profile. And then there was no looking back. Then after that, they've produced or they've written a lot of research papers. They've helped students write research papers, and with that mentality or with that aim, Videsh was founded. So Videsh actually works hard towards achieving or helping you achieve your dream universities, or rather helping you build a strong profile by integrating it with research. So we emphasize heavily on building a strong research profile, and then we help you to reach your goals, whether it is to go to a graduate school, whether it is to go for a PhD or MS program, or it is for you to upscale your profile for industry. So with that aim, Videsh was founded, and Raj, Rajat, and Sridat came back to India and founded Videsh after doing their PhDs. So that is it about Videsh. Today's agenda is going to be about what is a research profile basics. I'm going to be talking about how to identify the topics for your research papers, and then I'm going to dive in into all the elements of the research paper, all the sections that are included in the manuscript. Okay, and then I'm going to be talking at the end about a few things, a few mistakes student make, a few do's and don'ts, and then what happens after your paper is submitted to the journal or conference. So I'm going to be talking about that. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about what happens when your paper is in review, how much time it takes for the reviewer to get back to you, and then at the end we are going to be talking about some of our programs. Okay, so essentially, what is a research profile? So apart from the research profile being extremely important in your portfolio, what essentially constitutes of a research profile? So as you can see on the left hand side, if you can see, there are research projects, there are international research internships, or maybe internships in college or your university as well. And on the right hand side, you can see papers, conferences, and patents. So on the left hand side, the two things that you can see don't actually constitute of a research profile. Okay, it actually can be considered as like an additional projects that you are doing, but it is not constituted of a research profile. This you cannot call as a research profile. Whereas on the right hand side, if you have a conference, if you have a patent, or if you have submitted your paper in a journal, that can be considered as a research profile. Okay, so this is the main difference between whether or not you classify yourself as having a research profile or not having a research profile. If not, how you can build it so that you can upscale your profile, right? Moving ahead, yeah, so moving ahead, what actually constitutes of a research profile? Okay, so it is either journal papers with new results, it is either literature review papers, or you submit your papers to preprints. Okay, I'm going to be explaining the difference between these three elements in a bit. So journal papers with new results essentially talks about a research paper having novel results that you are submitting to a journal or a conference. Literature review papers are actually reviews, or rather review papers written using 50, 60, or maybe more research papers as the basis. So it is actually a literature review paper is actually a kind of a review that you're doing on multiple research papers written on the similar topic. Okay, and then there are preprints. Okay, so what is a preprint? When you are writing a research paper manuscript, instead of directly submitting that to a journal or a conference, first you make a submission to a preprint. The reviewing system of a preprint is usually much more lenient than a journal. So that is why students prefer to first submit to a preprint, get it approved or get it published in the preprint, and then submit to an actual journal. Okay, so that is what preprint essentially means. Again, when I'm trying to reiterate the point that you don't necessarily have to publish when you are applying to grad school. So for those of you who are applying for grad school for the next fall cycle of 2026, it's completely fine if your paper is still not submitted, or if you still haven't received results about or results on whether or not your paper has been published or no. You can even mention in your resume that your paper is in preparation. Okay, so this is Dr. Raj's screenshot of his resume. So as you can see, this was the resume that is submitted to MIT for grad school applications when he did that during 2017. So here he had mentioned very clearly in his resume that his paper is in preparation and it is not yet prepared. However, you can see that he has mentioned the details of his paper in the portfolio website that he has mentioned the link to. Okay, so he's not just written the paper is in present preparation, but he has also written that the portfolio website gives all the details about what paper he is writing about, so the admissions committee can directly go to the portfolio website and they can view the details of his paper. Okay, and the same thing is endorsed in the letter of recommendation also by his professor. So remember, endorsement by your professor saying the same statement is also very important. Okay. Now I'm going to be talking a little bit about the research paper basics. Okay, so when you say that a research paper is I've not actually written a research paper, it really takes a lot of time, a lot of patience to write a research paper. Yes, undoubtedly, I would say that research paper writing is one of the most patient processes that one has to go through if you have decided to have a research profile, but so very rewarding, so very important to have it on your profile. But then the only thing that our co-founders or we as a team have to say to you is that be patient in this journey, do not doubt yourself, and be very positive of the outcomes as well, because even if your paper gets published or not in any journal conference, it's very important for you to know or not to be disheartened by the fact that your paper got rejected. The very fact that you have written a paper manuscript and submitted or managed to submit to a journal or conference in itself is a big thing. Okay, so keep that in mind, keep a very, I would say, a positive outlook when you are beginning this journey of building a research profile, and don't doubt yourself too much. Okay. Yeah. So, what is the first step when you talk about, or when you are diving into the topic of research paper writing, research paper manuscript writing? Okay. So, the first thing that comes in the set processes is the literature study. Okay. So, there are two types of literature study. First is the in depth mode, and the second is the bird's eye view mode. Okay. So, literature study is a study that you are doing with the help of multiple papers written on the same topic, so that you get a feel of how the paper is written first thing, and then you then identify the specific story of your paper. Okay. So in the in depth mode, like the name suggests, it's like where you are doing the literature study in much more detail. You are reading the entire paper in very detail, and then the bird's eye view mode is where you are skimming the paper in parts, where you are only skimming through the important sections, or you're skimming through the paper outline. Okay. A combination of these two modes is extremely important when you are doing literature study. I'll come to that part in a bit. So, how do you summarize the findings from whichever papers you read during the literature review? How do you do that? Okay, so you maintain an Excel sheet where you are mentioning the paper title in the column B, and then all the details in the rest of the columns. And column G is extremely important because here you are mentioning your summary. Okay, what you think about a particular research topic, or what you think about a particular research paper, in short. Okay. So it so happens that students read a lot of research papers, and then they forget actually what they found out, or what their takeaway was from a particular paper that they read. So it's always better to maintain your own summary, or to maintain a documentation of whatever you've read, so that you can use it for reference later on. Okay. Yeah, so the tools that you should use, or the tools that will make your job easier, are these three tools particularly. I will take you through each of these tools separately, but please remember that having these tools, or using these tools, will make your job much easier. Okay. Overleaf is that software. Now you can, if you can see my screen, you can see that Overleaf is the software which converts the text into a latex document, and it makes your paper look extremely professional. So as you can see, the left side is the input, and the right side is essentially the output. Okay, so that is something which is extremely, I would say, very very easy to use, and it makes your paper look very professional. Okay, so if you are thinking about writing a research paper from scratch, and you don't actually have any professional mentor to help you, I think this is a very good way to start. Even we use Overleaf a lot with our students as well, because first thing, it makes the job very easy. You don't have to change the font or anything. You just have to make edits here. So here you can see that all the changes you need to make are here. So text it in this, you just have to make the changes. Journal of Fluid Mechanics, so that's it, that's all you have to do. And then Overleaf will convert that into a specific format, a preset format, um, that will make your paper look extremely professional. Okay, there are a lot of things you can do in Overleaf. You can write your paper, you can insert figures, tables, etc. in Overleaf. So it's a very useful software, and it helps you to a great deal. It saves your time as well. Okay. Now moving to Litmaps. Okay, Litmaps is a kind of a software which helps you a lot with literature study. Now there are a lot of times when you're reading a certain paper, you don't know which paper to read next. Okay, so it so happens that you have to read a lot of papers usually when you're doing a literature study, and it so happens that there's no ready list available with anybody doing a literature study. It's like you figure out which paper you want to read when you are reading the current paper. So it's kind of like a figuring out thing that you have to do, and actually Litmap helps you with that. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how it helps you. Okay, so this is the Litmaps link, and here I'm just entering this paper title written by Dr. Raj. And what I did was, I selected this title, I clicked on this title, and it took me here. Okay, so just a moment. Yeah, so it took me here. Okay, So what it shows is basically this is the paper that I selected. This is the paper that I'm currently reading. And here are the rest of the papers that have cited the current paper. Okay. So out of these papers, when you hover the cursor here, you can see the title of these papers. So you can choose either of the papers mentioned here for your next read. Okay, so that is how Litmap helps you, and that is why this software is also extremely important in determining which paper you want to read next for your literature study. All right. Yeah. So coming back to the presentation, Mendeley is another software actually which helps you with having a reference library. Okay, I'm just going to take you through Mendeley as well. So yeah, so this is the Mendeley software, and what I did here was the same thing. I just entered Dr. Raj's paper title here in the search option here, and I clicked on it, and here is what I could find. Okay, so these are the different papers that have cited or that have readers based on Dr. Raj's paper, and these papers are, you know, the ones that you can read next also, and you can create a reference library also in Mendeley. Okay, so if you remember the Excel sheet that I showed you previously, that is a very manual way of doing a literature study, or rather doing a summary of the literature study that you've read. But this you can do via a software. You can sign in, you can create your account, and then you can create a reference library. All right. Coming back to the presentation, yeah, now identifying the topic for your paper, a very very important point is identifying a topic, because this actually decides the impact of the research paper. It also decides the rest of the things, how you are going to proceed, in which direction you are going to proceed. Okay, so first you have to identify what is your broad area of interest. Okay, so for example, I've given here 5 topics which are just mentioned here for reference, but which are very broad. Okay, so you can consider AIML, you can consider aerodynamics, you can consider material science. So these topics, as you can see, they're very broad. Okay, there are a lot of subtopics in these topics, but first you have to identify your broad area of interest. That is very important. And then what you do is you narrow down that search into specific 2 or 3 topics. So for example, in if you look at AIML, you see deep learning in healthcare, or you can see AI in autonomous vehicles. So these are very specific topics, or these are, I would say, narrowed down topics. Okay, so whatever your field is, or whatever your broad area of interest is, you have to classify that, or narrow that down into 2 or 3 topics. Okay, then what you do is you basically do a literature study to identify the specific topic. Okay, so what you do, how do you do literature study in this case, is that you first look for relatively new papers. First of all, you look out for papers, so the main idea is that you look out for papers that are referencing to the field or the topic that you've chosen. So the literature papers or the research papers should be around that topic. And the second thing is that they should have good number of citations. So when you go on Google Scholar, you can see that you can see the number of citations each paper has. So that can give you an actually good idea of the number of citations. So don't pick any paper with less number of citations, less than 50 probably. Pick out preferably papers with citations more than 50. All right, and then you have to look for relatively new papers. So after, like, let's say the timeline for papers is 10 years, so you don't have to look out for papers that are older than 10 years. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then what happens is that when you are doing literature study from these 5 papers, what happens is that you understand, or rather you get to know, which are those topics that will help you, or that will help you come up to a specific story, or decide a specific story that you have to decide for your paper. Okay, so as you can see that how to select papers, I already told you that. You can also when you are thinking about making a specific story, or when you are talking about choosing a specific story, you can read more than 5 or 10 literature study papers until you are completely convinced that this is the particular topic that I want to write my research paper in. And during this literature study, what you have to do is you have to combine both the bird's eye view mode, and the in-depth mode. So what you have to do is, probably let's say 5 papers you do from the in-depth mode, and the rest 10-15 papers you read from the bird's eye view mode. So that is how you combine these two modes of literature study. Okay, and then you finally come up to a specific story that you want to write your research paper on. Here I've shown an example. For example, the broad domain you can consider as sustainability. Photovoltaic efficiency is the narrowed down topic, and then around which you are doing your literature study as well. And then methods for removing dust from solar panels for operational efficiency. This is the specific story, okay, that you want to come up with. Okay, so this is how you classify the topic as a broad topic, narrowed down topic of interest, and the specific story on which I want to write my research paper, right? So yeah, so when you have identified your topic, now what you do is you write the paper outline. Okay, so the paper outline essentially consists of 5 parts. It consists of title, abstract, introduction, tables, and figures. Okay, so that constitutes of a paper outline, right? And then these 12 things that you can see right now here actually constitute to all the elements of a research paper. Okay, so all the elements of the research paper are included in these 12 sections. All right, now if you can see that, how does the paper outline improve your confidence to finish a paper? Paper outline is the skeleton of the paper. Okay, so the 5 elements that I just told you about constitute a skeleton. Okay, very very important point again, to note that once you complete the paper outline, you're almost on the verge of finishing a paper manuscript. So it shouldn't take too long for you to finish the paper manuscript then, right? Here also, like I said, overleaf template can be used, or you can use the traditional word template. I'm just going to show you how the word template looks like. Just give me a moment. So it's completely up to you which template you want to use. We prefer overleaf because it makes our job much easier. It makes your profile, or it makes your paper look extremely professional. So that is something that we recommend you do. But again, okay, I think this file is not opening. What I'll do is I'll share the link in the description of the recording. So you can find the MS Word template in the description of the video. Okay, so that is something that I'll do. Okay, so yeah, so when we are moving to the first parts of the paper outline, we talk about the title, we talk about the abstract. Okay, so the title is nothing but a 12-13 word combination, which gives a very good idea about what a research paper is about, what your paper is about. Actually, it gives you a pretty good idea about what it consists of. And then the first version of abstract, or rather the abstract, is a 200-word essay. And for ease of understanding, actually we have broken down the abstract into 4 parts. Okay, so the first part deals with the large scale problem. For example, dust accumulation on solar panels is a major challenge. That is the large scale problem. Okay, specific challenge as the second point. Okay, so what is a specific challenge? Consumption of water for cleaning, especially in deserts, poses a substantial sustainability challenge. So that is the specific challenge. Okay, and then specific merits and details. Here this is going to be I would say something that is going to talk a bit about your approach, so that make sure that you give a very good number of words to this particular section of the abstract. And then the fourth part is going to talk about wider implications. Okay, so since this structure represents an hourglass, we call it the hourglass approach, because as you can see that the first and the fourth parts of the abstract resemble the hourglass, where they are applicable to a much wider audience, and then the second and third parts are applicable to a much smaller audience. That is why it represents an hourglass. It's very easy for you to understand that as well, that when I talk about an abstract, I have to imagine an hourglass, and then I have to write an abstract. Okay, so the third part of the section, or the paper outline, is the introduction section. Okay, so introduction section deals a lot with writing a 1500 or 1000 word essay. which talks about, your novelty. So what novelty you have brought into the research paper, it talks about that. And it is in fact the backbone of any paper. It's the most, I would say, most impactful section. It's like the make or break of the paper, and it kind of determines whether your paper will be accepted or rejected. Okay, so for ease of understanding of that as well, we have broken down the introduction also into 5 parts. So as you can see, the first part deals with what is the problem. Okay, so the problem statement. The second part deals with how are people trying to solve this. Okay, so the implications. So how are people trying to solve this. The third and the most important part is what are the issues with the current approaches. So as you can see, the second and third part deal a lot with the references as well. So you have to mention the references also in this particular point, and we already have a references section at the very end. Okay, but still you have to mention the references here, because when you mention the references here, it becomes easy for you to write the references later on. Okay, and then the fourth point is what do you propose. Okay, so what is your suggestion? How do you see, or what is the novelty of your paper? And then fifth is the large scale implications of your solution. Okay, so this is like a very important part of your research paper, and it's always better if you write this as a bullet pointed version, and later on we will convert this into a fully paragraph version. Okay, so that is what the approach should be. The first 5 points should be written in the introduction section as the bullet pointed version, and here in the second and third point you have to mention references also. Okay, it's fine if you do that in as the bullet pointed version itself. It's completely fine, and then later on you have to expand that into a full fledged paragraph version. Yeah, so the next part is a paper outline. Okay, so the figures. Okay, so figures constitute a very important part of your research paper, and generally since visual effects are much more impactful than the text that we read, it's very important to treat or to insert figures being very very careful. Okay, so I'm just going to mention here 6 points that are extremely crucial in making or in inserting the figures. That is, first is the that the figure should be a high resolution. The second is that it should have legible access sticks and labels. Third is that there should be consistent choice of colors, font family, font size. And fourth point is well aligned with subfigures. And fifth and sixth points deals a lot with the size and colors of markers and titles, legend, and subfigure numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you or I'm going to show you an example of a sample figure, and how beautifully that figure is created or inserted into the paper. Okay, so if you can see on the screen, the figures can be inserted using either of these tools, and it's possible to insert figures via overleaf as well. Okay, so this is the sample figure. Okay, where you can see that the figure is labeled. It has a figure title, subfigure number, figure description as well. Okay, so as you can see, this figure is very very uniform, and such should be the ideal figure that you want to insert. All right, and then the next part of the paper outline is the tables, right? So tables also are very very important when you are talking about a paper outline. If there is anything that is in text and that you want to convert, or that you can convert to a table, then you should definitely do that. Also keep in mind that when you are inserting tables, the same rules apply as figures. And remember that every table should be labeled, every sub table should be labeled with a table number, table description, sub table description, etc., and the font should be consistent. Okay, now we move on to the next point, that is the references. So if you remember that you had written references in the as the bullet pointed version in the introduction section. Now we have this full section where we are supposed to write the entire references. Okay, here we are actually looking at or writing all the references that we want to mention, that we have used in our paper, and we are also converting the bullet pointed references into a paragraph version. Okay, yeah, so now we have the bullet pointed paper outline ready. with the title Abstract Introduction, Tables and Figures. Now what we have to do basically is that we have to expand the bullet pointed version into a paragraph version, so that we are slowly moving towards writing a paper manuscript. And that is going to give you an entire paper manuscript that you have to submit to a journal or a conference, right? Acknowledgement is a very short section that is usually, very very easy to write, and usually you will also find a lot of acknowledgements in the literature study that you'll do, so that will give you a fair idea of what you want to mention in your acknowledgement section. It's a fairly short and simple section. And then we come to converting, like I said, the bullet pointed version into a completely full-fledged paragraph version. Okay, this is the next section of the paper manuscript, which consists of the conclusion section. Okay, so the conclusion section is nothing but the summary of the paper and the actual takeaways. Okay, so this is also, the length of this section is similar to that of the abstract. And it's like a very simple section where you are quickly summarizing the paper and you are mentioning the actual takeaways. Okay, it's very simple section. Now we move towards writing an entire paper manuscript, but before that, there's a supplementary material section which is not mandatory. But this is the section where you want to add a few things, but you did not find the correct section to write those things or add those things, or you have more than a few references that you want to mention, some figures you want to add, you can write those in the supplementary section. This section is not mandatory. Okay, I'm just now going to talk about the writing style in a bit, because when you are writing an entire paper manuscript, you have to mind your writing style. Okay, it's very important for you to use the active voice instead of passive voice. And very I would say, it looks like a very minor thing, but it actually goes a long way when the reviewer is reading your paper. So keep that in mind, use the active voice instead of passive voice. And then the tenses. So as a rule of thumb, it's very confusing for students to use the correct sentences when it comes to different sections. But as a rule of thumb, please remember to use present tense for analysis and conclusions, and past tense for experiments conducted. Okay, so that is something that you should keep in mind as a rule of thumb and go accordingly. Okay, so that you will not mess up your tenses. Okay, now I'm coming to I would say the section which is, I would say, looks very silly, but it's very important, because in today's world where we have plugins like Grammarly, we cannot afford to make grammar mistakes, grammatical mistakes, or vocabulary mistakes. It's a complete no no. So you can either sit with a highlighter in your hand and mark every mistake that you've made by taking a printout, or you can install plugins like Grammarly. Okay, so whatever you do, please make sure that there are no grammar or vocabulary mistakes. Okay, and then what do you do after your paper manuscript is ready and you are ready for a submission? How do you identify the journal for submission? It's comparatively easy to identify a conference, because you know your relevant topic, you know the relevant conference, that you just have to select the relevant conference which is relevant to your paper, and you have to make a submission. But finding a journal is comparatively more complicated, and it consists of a variety of factors that you have to consider. Okay, so the first and foremost thing that we would suggest is look out for similar topics on Google Scholar and see which journals they have been submitted to, because that is, I would say, the most easiest thing that you can do to identify a journal. The second thing is that, look at the impact factor of the journal. Every journal has an impact factor. Okay, so I would say an impact factor of 3 to 10 is something that can be considered as very very good. And if you are making submissions to such journals, they have usually very stringent criteria for acceptances. So you have to be prepared in that case. Okay, but then some journals also involve cost of submission. Okay, so whether or not your paper is accepted or rejected, they take a cost that you have to pay when you are submitting a manuscript. Okay, so beware, keep that in mind when you are submitting papers to journals. Conferences, on the other hand, don't have any submission cost, but they I would say, they are very much, I would say, when your paper gets accepted in a conference, you have to bear the cost of accommodation and travel. You don't have to actually pay the upfront cost while submitting the paper. Okay, And then what happens when you submit? Actually, what are the steps that take place when you submit the paper? First of all, your paper goes through an editorial review in which you also have to submit a cover letter. Okay, so a cover letter will essentially outline what your paper is about and what exactly your vision is. Okay, and then it goes through peer review. After that, it goes through revision. And then finally, as the fourth step, you understand or you get to know if your paper is published or not. Please remember the paper while passing these three, four stages. If at the end of every stage you receive a notification if your paper has been accepted or if your paper has passed to the next stage or not. Okay, so you will, if your paper doesn't go to the next stage, you will receive a feedback. You will get an email saying that your paper has not been selected for the next stage. And so whatever it is, you will get a notification, okay, at the end of every stage, right? The entire process, I would say, takes about 6 to 8 weeks or probably even more than that. But then still, if somebody is on leave, some reviewer is not available, or if there are holidays, the time taken can be more. Okay, so it usually, I would say, takes about 6 to 8 weeks for any paper to get published or for you to receive any results if your paper has passed the three stages. Okay, and then the point where you deal with paper rejection, like I said, if it's your first submission, don't be disheartened that your paper got rejected, because even top professors from top schools sometimes get their papers rejected. It's a very common thing for first timers, completely okay to get your paper rejected for the first time. And it's actually something that will give you a lot of learnings and something that you have to take very, very positively. Okay, now I'm going to be talking a little bit about our long-term mentorship program. If you are looking at applying for grad schools in fall cycle of 2026, we have this LTM program that we have started, and which is, I would say, going in full swing. But the timeline is something that I want to emphasize on. We are at the end of September with only 2 months remaining for submitting applications to universities. Most universities have announced their deadlines in December, and now is the perfect time for applicants to enroll, because if you are late, then now it would be challenging for you to complete all the elements of your profile within the stipulated time frame. And that is why, if you still have to build a research profile, I request you to get started as soon as possible. And we can decide how to go forward. Okay, so I'll just mention the phases of LTM, or the constituents of LTM. LTM consists of building your research profile and perfecting your application. So, as the first part, we rely heavily on building a strong research profile, because, according to our co founders and according to the lot of students that we have mentored and guided, having a strong research profile significantly increases your chances of getting into a good university. Okay, and then the phase two, which consists of storytelling. Basically, that consists of shortlisting of universities, statement of purpose, letters of recommendation, a little help with GRE and TOEFL, resume preparation, and portfolio website. Okay, this is the research assessment tool that we send you once you have enrolled to the LTM. This is for us to understand whether or not you are well versed with research, what is your research background, etc. And these are some of the things, I would say, I would call them testimonials, because these are the some of the things that we have done to improve profiles of a number of students. And I would say, this profile improvement goes in a long way in your career. It's not just limited to applying to grad schools, but having a good profile actually benefits your career in multiple ways. Okay, so these are some sample papers from long-term mentorship program phase 1 and phase 2. Some of the papers are students have written who had no experience in writing a research paper, but still managed to write a research paper and build a very strong research profile. Okay, these are some of the admits that students got from universities, different universities that are actually very stringent to international students, but our students helped, or rather our students managed to get admits from these universities. And the major part, or the major contribution of that was from the research profile. Okay, So these are some of the success stories. These are a few universities where we have sent our students. You can view the full list on our Fly Videsh website. So on the website, I am also going to show you where you can look at the testimonials also. So on the home page of the website, just a minute. Let me show you. I'm mentioning this website in the description as well of this recording. But then, if you look at the website and if you scroll down here, you can see that our students have given video feedbacks also. So you can listen to the video feedbacks, and then you can look at different feedbacks, and then you can see where we have sent our students. Okay, so here are all the places that. We have actually managed to send our students, and a major contribution, like I said, was from having a research profile. Okay, these are again a few testimonials that I want to showcase. So in the first part, that is building your research profile, we will help you find a good problem statement. We will teach you how to write papers. We will help you set a very realistic timeline to publish papers in the next few months, and then we will help you to figure out how to submit to journals and conferences. So we will help you to figure out, or rather select, relevant journals and conferences that we want to make submissions to. Okay, I just want to reiterate this fact once again, that the resume on the left looks, strength wise, looks much weaker than the resume on the right. It's always better to have at least one paper publication. So even if you have only one paper that you have under review or in preparation, and one conference or just one paper, that resume is much better than resume on the left. Okay, this is just photos of Dr. Sridhar at the time when he was in MIT. So a very, I would say, enriching experience academically and diversity wise as well. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the scientific machine learning bootcamp that we have. Okay. So the SciML bootcamp actually is focused a lot on writing research papers in scientific machine learning. This is applicable for students in computer science as well, or for students in other domains which who want to have an experience or upgrade machine learning in their profile. Okay, so this boot camp is for everybody who wants to have an ML experience on their profile. Okay. So what we basically do is we teach you the basics of machine learning. We teach you how to do impactful projects, and we teach you how to publish machine learning papers. Okay. Very, very important. This is the bootcamp curriculum. If you happen to see the website, I'm just going to take you through the website as well. Just a moment. So in the same website, we have a tab where we have the ML bootcamp mentioned, where we have different plans available for different requirements. Okay, so if you are interested in the ML bootcamp, it's very, I would say, reach out to us, and what we'll do is we'll pick out the program for you which is the most suitable considering your goals. Okay, so this is the bootcamp content, and here you can see that we are also converting your results to research. We are also writing a research paper. Okay, so these are the four plans that are available: researcher plan, student plan, community plan, and the industry professional plan. Okay, so if you are interested in the SciML bootcamp, please get in touch with us, and we will collaborate and we will see which program suits you the best. All right, these are some of the projects that we have done, we are doing in the bootcamp, and that you will be a part of. Yeah, you will also learn to publish your papers like these are some samples of the papers published in machine learning. All right, like I said, these are different plans that you can choose from, and what you can do is you can get in touch with us at hello@flyvidesh.com, with all the details about yourself, and if any questions you have, you can get in touch with us and we will get back to you. Okay, I just want to show you a few testimonials of the SciML bootcamp that we have. So this is also a very impactful bootcamp, and recently we published six papers in different conferences, top renowned conferences in ML. So if you are our LinkedIn follower, you will be able to see that we have posted it on LinkedIn as well. So it's a very prestigious achievement for us and for students who have worked so hard to publish their papers in these workshops or in these conferences. So if you're interested in either LTM program or SciML bootcamp, get in touch with us, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you all next time. Thank you so much.